I'm delighted to be here with JAKKO JAKSYK yet again. So we're getting close to the European tour kicking off in June. I think you said in Leipzig, and Crimson are playing 3 dates at Rawll Albert Hall, 18th, 19th, and 20th.
Yeah.
So how are you looking forward to that? And I think you're now performing as a 7-piece.
Yes, we've gone back to a 7-piece. Yeah, Bill's unable to make this tour, so and it was sounding great in rehearsal.
And in fact, it's not the first time you played as 7.
No,
you did the US tour in 2017.
Yeah, that's how we started. Yeah, and then the first 3 years we were 7-piece. Yeah.
So, given that the last tour was 8, have you had to sort of relearn keyboard parts or spread out the stuff that Bill was doing?
A little, yeah. I think when we were the 8, there was maybe 2 tunes where we specifically had more parts. It's side 2 of Lizard, which is the big kind of orchestral thing. So suddenly I've acquired a keyboard as part of my rigs, playing some mellotron.
And I think when we last met, you were just going into getting ready to go into a round of rehearsals.
We finished that a couple of weeks ago or 10 days ago.
So you're road ready, or there's still some tweaks?
Well, there's some tweaks to do. We'll rehearse for a bit in. I think we've got 4 days rehearsal in Leipzig, and then we're off.
Great. As I said, looking forward to coming to Rawll Albert Hall. And one thing about the Albert Hall, of course, is they've just enhanced the sound system.
Yes, and the guy that was in charge of designing it's a big Crimson fan, and called in our sound man. So he's kind of been involved. So. Yeah.
So no pressure on him when you turn up there. He's got 3 days to get it right.
Well, he's a very experienced man, is Chris. Chris, in a former life, was one of the most successful record producers of the 80s and 90s. Who's kind of accidentally become our live sound guy.
Is that Chris Thomas?
Chris Porter.
Chris Porter, okay.
Yeah. Who, did all the George Michael stuff. He's produced loads of people. Pet Shop Boys, 4 number 1s would take that. But of course, Robert first met him because he was the engineer on Scary Monsters, so he recorded Robert.
Oh, I see.
And that's how he started as engineer of Good Earth for Tony Visconti.
And we went to the 50th anniversary briefing that Robert stood up and told us about the life, the universe, and Crimson, and his views and everything.
Yeah.
It was quite fascinating. And there were a couple of themes that came out of that. I think the main one was this year, moving forward, is looking at ways of expanding the audience in terms of playing bigger venues, festivals.
Yeah, we're doing a number of festivals, and I know that there was some consternation amongst the fan base about why are you playing festivals like this. I don't want to spend all that money to watch Crimson play, a shortened festival set when it's alongside bands we don't like, and why aren't you playing a prog thing? And of course that's the whole point. The whole point is to play in front of, it's not all like that, there's a handful of these where we play in front of audiences that might not be fully au fait with who we are. So yeah, we're doing a handful of those. We're doing a 3-day festival in Barcelona, where I think we're the only band that's playing every night, and that's got a wide range of people, from contemporary people like Tom Walker and Christine and the Queens, but it's also got the Smashing Pumpkins, and so yeah, we're doing that. We're doing Rock in Rio as well in Brazil. So about 150,000 people, so I'm told. Not sure what they'll make of us, but it's been amazing.
And the other, not necessarily theme, but related to that, is the Crimson catalogue has been made available on streaming platforms.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? Now, being kind of a bit of a sort of an audiophile, a remasterer. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, a mixed, I guess there's an argument that I can kind of understand. Although I personally have had personal issues with the way that Spotify work. I was involved in a court case in America, just as a kind of additional witness, as they were trying to prove a kind of modus operandi. Because I had a number of albums that I own that were on Spotify, didn't ask my permission. I had no contact with them whatsoever. And I'm sure, you know, what I put out is not going to generate a great deal of income, but it was the principle at stake, really.
Of course.
And I wrote to them, and they ignored me. And then eventually, I spoke to someone that I knew at MCPS who gave me a phone number, and they made me fill out some forms. And I said, "Why am I filling these in?" Well, to prove that you own it. I thought, wait a minute, you've got these CDs, ripped them off, stuck them on your, and I've got to prove that I own it.
Yeah.
So, and it was only when I joined Crimson and I told them about it that they got them taken down, because Crimson had the same issue. And when they got their stuff taken down, 18 months later, it was back up there again. So yeah, it's a management decision, I guess, to kind of. I mean, you know, as a consumer, I can see that, of course, the convenience and the access of Spotify is amazing. I'm not knocking that. I'm just knocking, you know, an aspect of their business model, I guess.
Now, is that principally focused on the archive and the legacy material? Because I know that DGM are releasing or focused on releasing live recordings, new tracks.
Yeah, no,
live.
they're putting everything up there, I think,
including
all this.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as I'm aware.
Great. And in terms of the set, when it comes to this round of the tour, because we saw you back in November, I think, at the end of the Palladium. Things been changed around a little bit?
Well, what we have currently, we've added 4 additional pieces to the repertoire, and because we've been doing this now, it's in essence the same lineup, the basic lineup, has been in existence for, this is year 6, I think. And on the whole, we do 2 chunks of touring a year. So in each chunk we've been adding material, so we now have a repertoire from which we can access whatever, of around 50 tunes. And they cover the gamut, you know. I think we play tunes from every single album apart from one, I think. And there's about 45 minutes or so of brand new material. And Robert changes the set every day. We get a new set list every day. So those people coming to multiple shows will see a different set.
And I think that's definitely the beauty of having the 7-piece lineup with the configuration, that it's the first time in the current year that the band's been able to play material from all the way back from the debut album onwards through to the Baloo fronted era, and the brand new material with taking advantage of the 3 drummers.
Yeah, you know, obviously one of the drummers plays piano. Jerry's a really good piano player, and so that, suddenly we've got access to all of that, and Pat takes on the whole kind of Jamie Muir role and he's triggering stuff as well as playing. So yeah, we're across the range, we can access virtually everything.
I think we're right in saying that the last most recent tour or tour dates you did before the gap was in Japan.
Yeah, we did 15 shows in Japan in December. Yeah.
And I remember reading that you have a particularly emotional moment when you were playing Epitaph in Hiroshima.
Yeah. Well, I'd spent the theatre in Hiroshima is literally a 2-minute walk from the Memorial Peace Park, and I spent the afternoon there with Gavin, and you know, it's you know, it's a very thought-provoking thing, and you know, you see details, subtle details, and then to be on stage in that very place singing a song like Epitaph was pretty extraordinary. I got the most amazing message from a guy in the audience whose parents had survived the blast.
Wow.
It was really moving.
I mean, that must be really gratifying that the music is touching so many people. Last time we met, you told me a really great story about someone you met coming off stage at the Palladium.
Well, yeah, we the first night at the Palladium, which was a good show. I really enjoyed the show in particular. Yeah, and there was I was heading towards the wardrobe department to dump my sweaty shirt, and a woman touched me on the shoulder and was really sweet. Said how much she enjoyed it, and my performance in particular, and my singing in particular. And you know, listen, that's always lovely to hear that from people. Of course it is. But this this woman was Kate Bush, so it was kind of it really was a highlight because I'm such a, I really respect her and what she's done. So that was brilliant. It was a real highlight for me.
And of course, there's this all these strange connections through Kate Bush to Alan Murphy, Level 42,
Of course,
and yourself.
yeah. And Kate was there with John Gibbon, who's played bass on our last few albums and did the live shows at Hammersmith. And I've worked with John, so's Gavin. He's a great bass player, John. I really like working with him. A nice guy too.
Within a band like Crimson, with 7 incredibly great musicians, including Robert, of course, is there kind of a friendly rivalry?
No, I wouldn't say that. No, I think it's very supportive. I mean, it's a line that I know Robert reiterated on the event that you're discussing, and it's something he said in previous interviews recently, which is, this is his favourite lineup because it is all supportive, and it's what's that line he uses about there isn't at least one member of the band that resents it, and I think we are there for each other, and I think one of the byproducts of the way the band is set up with the drummers down the front is that it's more of an egalitarian type thing, because you're not playing the same kind of accepted format of what a band looks like. The lead singer isn't down the front being supported by everybody else, and as a consequence the kind of focus shifts depending on who's doing what, and I think that's part of it. And regular Crimson fans who've seen the band over the years will note that Robert's lit as brightly as anyone, and is completely visible. Historically he's always kind of hidden in the shadows, and so I think that's another kind of visual indicative of
it definitely comes across the passion and just the. I mean, he's very concentrated when he plays, but there is this joy that he exudes.
And this connection, you can see him smile, and we have a little exchange about something he just did or whatever. So it's good.
And I love the thing when the Prog Awards were announced, and you got a phone call from Gavin.
Well, which thing are you referring to?
When he phoned you up to congratulate your positioning in the top 10 of prog vocalists.
Oh, the vocalist thing. Yeah. He much to my amazement, he phoned me up and said, "Have you seen the Prog Awards?" I said, "No." He said, "Oh, you're in the vocalist section." I said, "Where am I?" He said, "You're 9th out of 10. He said, "Or to look at it another way, 2nd worst," which was lovely of him. At which point I realised, wait a minute, I know why you phoned me. You've come first in the drummers section, haven't you? Which of course he had. And then a few weeks later, he was he won the Modern Drummer Award, which he's already won about 5 times.
And turning it around, I mean, you obviously have your own musical heroes, and tell us a story about you buying Neil Sedaka breakfast. I love that one.
Well, this is earlier on this year, in January, I flew to Los Angeles because PRS Guitars were launching my signature model. And because it's a long trip, and I've got some pals in Los Angeles, I went out a couple of days early and stayed at a hotel. And then the morning I was driving down to Nam, I went to this famous diner on Sunset called Rawll's. And I just sat there having breakfast, and this little old man came in and sat kind of diagonally opposite me. And I thought, blimey, that looks just like Neil Sedaka. And then when I heard him order breakfast, I realised it wasn't Neil Sedaka. He's got an incredibly distinctive voice, whether he's speaking or singing. And I thought, suddenly I'm in that position of, do I say anything, or would that be naff? So in the end, I called over the waiter and I said, can I have Mr. Sedaka's check? Because I figured, even if I don't get to speak to him, at least I can legitimately say I bought Neil Sedaka breakfast. And so I did. And then the waiter told him, so then that started a conversation, and he was very friendly, and he recognised my accent as being English. And then I'd forgotten, but something suddenly dawned on me, and I said, You won't remember this, Neil, but when you toured England in 1973, you had a drummer called Michael Giles. And Neil said, yes, I remember Michael Giles, very good drummer, very fastidious man. He said, you know, before he played for me, he was in quite a successful English art rock group called King Crimson. I said, well, it's funny you should mention that, Neil. I'm currently the lead singer of King Crimson, and Michael Giles is in fact my father-in-law, which really freaked him out. So it was a very strange little, weird little moment.
I thought you were going to say that he was like, you found out he was a closet fan of Crimson. I think that was maybe a stretch too far. So you just mentioned guitars. Now, I understand that there's been a charity auction of some of your guitars for, I think, Trinity.
Yeah, it was Trinity. They asked me if I had anything that I could donate to an auction for charity. And I had one of the guitars I had made for me for the Radical Action tour. Featured the artwork, the kind of Cyclops, and I had two made. One was kind of like a prototype because the American one didn't get finished in time, and so I gave them that, and it raised about 1,600 quid. I think.
Oh, how good is that? So coming all the way up to present, you've got the tour ongoing. And I understand you're working up some solo material as well, and
yes, I'm
collaborating with others.
I'm planning on doing a solo record, which will partly consist of material that I've written for Crimson that Robert's rejected. But we used to have this little in-joke about I would play him something, and he'd say, "I think this is marvellous. It'd be an ideal track for your new solo record." And it's got to the point where I've got enough tracks for a new solo record.
So is the solo album going to be letting me down easy?
Yeah.
And the one of the artists that you mentioned last time was Nick Harper, as someone that you really admire.
Yeah, I love Nick. He's a fantastic bloke, and I mean, really unique performer. And if you've not seen him, you really should go. He's incredible. Incredible singer, really original guitarist. Great songs, really unusual, and you know, he makes the sound of it. There are times where he sounds like a three-piece heavy metal band, and it's just one bloke in the guitar. He's amazing.
I've seen him play with a group called the Wilderness Kids.
Oh, I don't know.
Which is actually a prog band called Port Erin, who are a London-based prog band, a really good prog band. And then I found out when I went to see them that they're actually work with Nick Harper on this more expansive thing where he plays.
Yes, I know he did some stuff with the band. I mean, I just think he's so unique. Seeing him in that environment with just a guitar, he's amazing. He uses these banjo tuning pegs, so he's tuning as he's playing, so they sound like little slides. It's extraordinary. He's brilliant.
So will he appear on your solo album, or is that work in progress?
We've talked about also, you know, I would love to do something with him. It's just finding a project. We did talk about doing a little kind of duo record, but you know, time, of course.
Well, that's it. Jakko, as always, it's a pleasure talking to you. The immediate term business, of course, is looking forward to the tour kicking off really soon, arriving in London on the 18th of June for a three-night residency. I guess we can call that a Rawll Albert Hall. So we will see you at one of those dates, if not multiples.
Right, lovely.
And again, a pleasure. Thank you.
And you. Thank you.
Cheers.